Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 4. Oh, wait, there's too many things. I think it's 465. Maybe it's 466, whatever, no big deal. Um, I'll have to do a quick double check, because whatever. It is Sunday, July 27th. Sunday, July 7th, 2024. It's okay. And it is a very foggy day. So we had a bit of a heat wave here in San Francisco, which is quite strange. It was so strange that we could almost see the fireworks this year. And I have been enjoying some time off from work, so that's been lovely. As you do. Got 4th of July off, decided to take the 5th off as well. So would be not too crazy. And then it was the case where the theme, and honestly, there's probably a little bit more preparation that needs to occur. So the theme has been mending, getting ready for SSK. But just as I was saying that, I'm like, homework. What's my homework? So it's fine. So it'd be the case where, as it stands right now, I'm taking a spinning class, and generally you just show up. And then I'm taking 2 brioche classes with Olga Jazzy, which should be a lot of fun. But probably should look and see what the requirements are, and if I need to pull anything from stash and make sure it's with me and get all that stuff packed. In addition, what was it? So I actually did have a little bit of time to pull fiber for the fiber pool. So I picked out a merino silk blend in sort of bright yellows and greens. That would just be the case where you're like, I'm not getting around to spinning this. That's probably fine to share. And then I also pulled out a pulver silk blend. I finally get to meet Andrea. Yay! Would it be? So, not too crazy. But would it be? So it would be the case where, like, did some knitting happen? Yes. Did a lot of knitting happen? Eh. Be like, is it true? Is my prime knitting time now the bus ride back home? And I didn't ride the bus at all last week. Is my prime time Monday night knitting, and it should be fine. We shall see. So, just to refresh, I really am only working on one project right now. So I'm working on the Piper, which is a Carol Sunday pattern that I'm knitting out of Harrisville Designs Flywheel, which is gorgeous. And I have 1 sleeve and 2 sleeves, which should be really lovely. And then I'm working on the back right now. And I have, or would it be, so it would be the case where we are growing now on the back, because we're beginning to accommodate the armholes, basically. So, and like, it feels like the short rows on this are very subtle, but you can see how this is going to be perfect. Perfect. And then, what would it be? Not so important on the back in terms of how that lays, but really would it be really nice how this is coming along. It is a bit more boat necky, for sure. And there will be like an edge treatment once everything is all seamed together. Um, and then the front has a little bit more neckline to it than the back does, so not too crazy there. So we are coming around for the sleeves. We're coming around for the sleeves right now. I'll probably have to do like a quick double check in terms of increase rate and whether or not I've made all my increases so far. And then I just have so since there are these like side cables here, it is a little bit more cabley. I do appreciate the little bit of texture on the sides too. So would be, and also it threw me for a loop having like that little partial cable, but it does look nice. So I was like, what in the world is going on here? But it's fine. So far so good. But yeah, not like, what would it be? Like I've recently joined in another ball. Do I have like slight doubts at the moment if I'm gonna have? It's probably fine. I have like last I checked, I had a ton of yarn. Um, the only problem may be if it falls out of my bag or something. So, not too crazy. When I was sort of combing through Ravelry to find out numbers and stuff, I did mark this project as a more correct amount complete, as you do. So not too crazy there. So it's my carry-on project. It gets work done. It's not too crazy right now. It'll probably be much more simple. It'll probably be much more simple after I get um past the armhole shaping, which shouldn't be too much more. I don't know if it's just all done by increases or if there's also going to be a little cast on as well. Not sure. And that'll probably make it more slow going. um, Whatever, such is life. So it's coming along. Um, Not too crazy there. Um, so, and then the other thing that has actually been getting a decent amount of love has been spinning. So Tour de Fleece is on now. I'm not necessarily posting every day, but you can sort of see here that we have our like yellows and greens and blues and browns. So very much so, would it be like colors of the natural world for sure. Um, and I'm just slowly but surely working my way through tails, but like I'm pretty destructible. Um, I am, would it be like the bag of fibers still seems quite full. Um, the bobbin is definitely filling up, but it always um it always seems like the end has a lot more diameter to store on, so um I probably will end up having a pretty darn full bobbin when I'm done. So it could be. We'll see what happens. It would be really lovely if I could finish the project because Google did hopefully remind me that I had started it 2 years ago. um, I had started it 2 years ago for as a part of like Tour de Fleece. And then I ended up taking off my wheel to go to SSK, and it slowed down quite a bit. um, what was it? Like, yeah, my spinning mojo wasn't super duper high. So this is why this year all of the fiber is on top. And it would be the case where it does feel a little bit like the fiber is overflowing somewhat, but maybe there's some opportunity to rejigger. I'm also sort of, or would be, and I did just pull two braids from my stash, but I'll be getting those back, so should be interesting. And it will definitely end up making for a pretty fun. Oh, to be like, I feel like my attempt here is to make sure that I put in lovely stuff so that I'll get lovely stuff out. And we'll go from there. But it could be entirely not in my color family. um, Whatever. So, like, but would be, but it does feel a little daunting right now because like I'm probably at like the halfway point minus plying. So I've done my length of fiber, my half length of fiber, and now I'm doing my third length of fiber. And I think the third length is making me slow down like a smidge. If if only because like it just gives you more stopping points. Though I'm not above just leaving the fiber attached to my wheel for a while too. So we'll see how that all comes together. Um yeah, cuz I'm not planning on bringing my wheel with me. And then I am planning on um a trip at the end of August. So everything that would need to be done would need to be done before I left on that trip. So we shall see how it all comes together. Um, Whatever. So it would be the case where in terms of my stash progress, I think I have succeeded on finding everything in my house that needed to be mended, um, and mending it at this point. And so what that means, like from a stash perspective, is that I have about 250 meters of finished object, which is the sweater for DPN. And then I have 9,000 meters of mending. And like to be fair, like some of that was like a pretty rough estimate, but whatever, such is life. Um, and it does make me thankful that I'm in a position where it's like, okay, yeah, we can figure out how to fix all this stuff and call it good. So the biggest item is this guy right here, and it looks like I'm actually not done yet. So, um, so maybe I will need to, yeah, I will have to do a little bit more. Boo. Yeah, that's gonna be more annoying. So, so it'd be the case where, yeah, you can sort of see right there. Um, so the dealio is, I received this blanket as a wedding gift from the knitters in Indiana. So it was super duper sweet. I don't know if I've ever really shown it on a podcast, but it like lives in my living room for the most part. And so there was a block that had some holes in it, and there was a seam that had come undone, and it looks like I have um, one more block that I need to repair. So we'll get that done. No big deal. Finish that during the nap. But but I had no clue how much was in this, so I actually had to use so so I was able to estimate that it was about like 3.2 pounds of yarn. That's about as accurate as that scale gets. And so that like translated to, let's see, So that ended up translating to, what is it? 3,300 meters. So not too crazy there. Um, but a pretty decent chunk of mending or whatever. So definitely a large chunk here. Um, and it would be the case where I would like to continue using it and having it. And the knitters who made it for me very thoughtfully included a decent amount of yarn in order to make repairs. So like basically like a whole skein. So this is like Knit Picks Swish DK. It's would be this guy is held up surprisingly well for whatever is it 13 years now. So not too bad that I finally needed to make some fixes now. And no time like Stash Dash to make that happen. Though I am glad that I did take another look, because unfortunately my child is a bit too much like me, and when he finds flaws in things, he likes to pick at them and make them worse. So having holes that are not supposed to be there in that blanket is a bit of a liability around him. So um that is a lot of the mending. So the other item, and this one wasn't too big, and I think I had this finished last week. And unfortunately, I did not have the OG yarn, but it's like not too crazy. Like you can sort of see like the distortions in the fabric and how it's a little bit darker where I mended it. But the goal here was just to continue having a wearable sweater because it's so stinking cute. So this is a sweater that Jess made me. I estimated the yarn being similar um to the Marshland sweater. It wasn't, would it be? I suppose I could. And it took like a couple of things. So one thing was that there was a hole in the cuff. So then I ended up reinforcing the cuff with some fingering weight yarn just to make sure everything held together nicely. And then there were a couple of places where the lighter teal yarn had holes, so we just fixed that. So hopefully we'll be able to get a bit more wear out of this sweater. So that ended up being like 250 meters. Another fairly big item was this blanket. So there were two places where the white yarn had been like cut, and so oh wait. So dolphin face for you. So effectively speaking, there were just two places where it was cut. I found some white hand spun and just reinforced in the back. And so that seems to be going pretty well. And then what was it? Did I end up looking up what that one was? I think I just done like a pretty rough estimate, so saying it was like whatever, like 4 skeins of yarn. So that was like 738 meters, basically. So I figure out where the movie maker icon is. But glad that this can be back in service. And it was a little bit funny because apparently our nanny has been using this blanket for years now and hadn't realized there were secret dolphins in it. So that is done. Another big item, and this one was maybe medium level crazy making, was that the cast on edge of this had come apart, and so I ended up ripping back the cast on one row and then just reknitting with a little bit of fresh yarn. Was merino cashmere silk a good choice for this hard-wearing object that is quite beloved? No. Does it still feel really good? Yes. Is everywhere where there was color work fine? Yes. If the fingers start going again, which they could for sure, I may end up finding a different fine black yarn and redoing them in that instead. Though I would be, or figuring out if there is a different yarn, or to be basically like a more tightly plied yarn that I could do, as you do. So, like, and I just looked that one up. So this wasn't like a ton. So this was like 292. The other thing was, there are like a couple pairs of socks that end up getting a ton of wear. And so one of these is, my cranberry biscotti socks. I probably all of my socks need a good wash, but I found a couple of bad spots in it. There might be a little bit more that I can probably do here. Yeah, I might need to do a little bit more on this one because there is, yeah, there definitely is like one weak spot. I will say, um, some of the yarn in this just turned out to not be that tough. So here would be, and then the case where you're like, oh, just random fuzz. Um, so like effectively speaking, just the case where I have to like keep an eye out for it because what was it? Especially like the pink was a merino cashmere nylon, and what would be it is not held up as well. So yeah, but effectively speaking, you can see like there's one little hole there that I'll need to repair. And I don't think I have any of this silver left at this point, so it would be the case where I've just been pulling, I think, some Miss Babs yarn in order to repair. Um, yeah, I probably won't. It's like I never really wove in the tails. It's not like these are whatever. It's fine. So that ended up adding up to 331 meters, so that one was pretty dense. We'll put that in the pile for more repairs needed. Um, so another one is, so this one ended up being, this one ended up being 406, so this is one of the man socks. And so it would be, like, I did have plenty of yarn, OG yarn for the repairs, but I did notice that there was a hole in the front of that, so we just have a little blip of bright blue out of pattern on this one. So these are Jack socks that I knit my spouse. And so every so often it needs a little bit of love. Not too crazy. And definitely whatever, a lot of meterage there. So the other thing was, for whatever reason, or would it be? I don't like, I do wear my handspun socks quite a lot, so they end up being out more than other socks for sure. But I also don't know if it's just the case where you end up having scenarios where they just end up not being as tough. But this is some of my opposing ply yarn. And I did have to go through and do quite a few repairs on the bottom of the foot for this one. And then I also had to redo the cast on edge for this guy as well. I think this one is still pretty solid. Yeah, I think I used like all of the yarn, so I'm actually repairing it with the chain ply leftovers from this yarn, but it's pretty good match. So these are now a neck socks out of what is it? Southern Cross Fiber. Unfortunately, David is no longer dyeing fiber. So what was it? So then those guys were, oh, they ended up being 515. These are dense. So that's, I think, also what's crazy making was that I knit these at a super tight gauge. I needed a super fine needle in order to make repairs, and what it be doesn't quite seem to work. The other one, and these ones frequently get repairs, so these are my 3-ply merino. Um, and I have a little bit of everything in this one, but I do have plenty of leftovers from this guy. So these are my best socks. So these are from the 2015 Mega Sale. I do really love them. I made a fractal 3-ply with them, and like they're not as bright anymore. Um, they do require fairly frequent repair, but it's not too crazy. So they ended up, and this was, I think, what sort of set me off the path of trying to make tougher socks. So these are 336 yards, so much less. Let's see, what else? I think I also had some green socks, which I don't have with me, which were like 285. Not too crazy. Um, yeah. And so all in, that ended up adding up to with the still lake tunic, so that ended up being 1800 meters. Um, like, and then the yellow hat I put down as like 225 is like 9K. So, not too crazy. Um, so it's nice to know, or would it be? So is the case where there were 2 big blankets, and then sweaters for small people, and quite a few socks. And like I have to be real about it. Like um my knitting progress has not been as fast. It's definitely much easier to repair, like notice that something as a whole, stop and repair it, um, than it is to knit a whole new thing, because it's gonna be like 30 minutes for the repair, or it'll be 40 hours for a new pair. um, so until like I definitely found um two DPN sweaters that were beyond repair. um I washed them before I was gonna sit down to repair them, and that made it worse. So I think the lesson learned there is for the Bambino clothing, it just needs to be washed after wearing, and religiously so. And then I think the other thing is my spouse is the primary launderer of the house, but I am in charge of the knitting. And he has started to use like an enzyme based thing in the washing machine, and so um, I can't use our washing machine because there seems to be like a little bit of that residual stuff. I think that's the only way to explain. But the enzyme cleaner does make it so it doesn't smell bad, so whatever. So it like so now I'm in a scenario where like I must hand wash, and probably hand wash on the regular, which would be isn't like super compatible, but it's better than having like a knit item be eaten away. It's yeah. So that's where we're at right now. And so um the last part of the podcast will actually be just going through some future plans. So I did give like a little bit of thought to what sort of projects I'd like to bring with me for SSK so that I would be ready to go. And I ended up deciding on a few things. Um, so the first item, or would it be, because I'm not sure whether or not it would be, like, who knows, maybe I won't be able to finish a cable sweater in the allotted time. But I decided that I did want to cast on a pair of socks. So this is mustache yarn in the Dark Father, aka Anakin. So I bought this at last SSK. Um, Roughly speaking, my spouse was on a trip with his friend or whatever, our friend Andrew, and is like, hey, I should knit Andrew a pair of socks. And so I texted back and forth in the mustache booth, and the conclusion was yes. this this was the colorway. So I'm gonna make some pretty simple self-striping socks for him out of this. It turns out my spouse and our friend have the exact same feet. So it should be pretty straightforward to do. And so I have my size 0 needles, I have that. I'll what it be? It's been a while. It feels like it's been a while since I've done some socks, but we'll see if I end up doing 72 stitch versus 64. I'll probably end up doing, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how small things turn out, but would it be? And that'll be the case where I'll do long heel flap and have it be pretty straightforward. And I'll probably end up pulling for the other end of the ball for the heel flap, so the striping continues uninterrupted, because I do like the way that looks. So, so pulled out the sock bag. I think everything that I need is in there. The sock bag is definitely getting a little bit worn at this point. So I have my double points. I have my tiny circular. I have some decent amount of yarn. What else do we have in here? A little crochet hook, a tape measure. See, obviously I haven't been looking here. A stitch marker, all sorts of good stuff. I don't know why. I don't know why I have the little crochet hook in here, but whatever. Well, it keeps things safe. So should have everything. Should have everything I need in order to get going on that. So will I cast on soon? Probably. Did I cast on yesterday after winding the yarn? No. And it could be that that's plenty of knitting the sweater. But the other thing that I did want to get ready was I had realized I had not made two stuffies yet. So what I have here are some yarns that I ended up picking up on local yarn shop day. And so this is Mitchell Fiber Arts, their fingering weight base, and I think this is one of like the unicorn colors. And then this is some seismic butter sock in some crazy neon color. It's like my child got a hold of both of them. And so the plan is to make two more Joris out of these. So that's what I said when I bought the yarn. I feel like that is continuing on and uninterrupted. I don't know if I want to hold them together, or if I want to just have like a pastel-y one and a darker one. Not sure. Like they totally, it could totally go either way. Yeah, I'm not sure. I might swatch like a very small amount. And figure out which way I would prefer. So, so I'll have to find a bag for these. I do have a bag. I just have to dig around the closet a little bit, but should be good for that. Um, and so shouldn't be too crazy, all things considered. I think between all those things, it will be plenty. It's like, because I was contemplating if I wanted to do any shawl knitting, but I'm like, I did want to get those done. It did seem like socks was a good choice, a solid choice for retreat knitting. And then I have my one spicy thing. So we'll see how that goes. Um let's see what else. But like I don't know, I suppose based on this session I do have a smidge more mending that I need to do, but that's not too crazy. Um just a smidge. And yeah, I guess I'm feeling a little bummed about that. I thought I got it all. I thought I got it all. So, whatever. I know it's also medium level annoying because that was like in a lace pattern, so that's gonna be harder. Or would it be? That's gonna end up being like a little bit harder. So as you do. Um, so what would it be? We'll see next time. Um, what what I end up sharing. So I probably will be recording again towards the end of July. I don't know if I will. I don't know whether or not I will end up recording yeah, I don't know whether or not I will end up recording um earlier than that, but whatever. It's gonna be a little bit of a chaotic July for sure. Like not would it be? It's mostly good stuff, so it should be fine. Um yeah, and then we'll see we will see where life takes us from there. Yeah, it'll be yeah, I guess it will be interesting to see what ends up coming up. And then yeah, I will have to figure out what comes next in terms of the queue. Because it was the case where I was thinking about doing another small sweaters. We'll see how that comes together for sure. So, with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. So, take care guys. Bye-bye.